time is now 8 o'clock. We will begin the Committee on Appointments. Great to see you all. We have a long day ahead of us, so let's get into it. Our first item on the agenda is a resolution approving the City Commission's appointment of Kieran Kelly to the Utility Advisory Board. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
I'm just supported. Any discussion or comments on this appointment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries. Item 2, a resolution of confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Michael Drabeck to the Monroe North Tax Increment Finance Authority. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Is there any discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries. Item 3, a resolution confirming the city manager's appointment of Betty Zylstra to the Grand Rapids Housing Commission. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Zylstra? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries. Our fourth item this morning is to look at our current vacancy list. There is a resignation on tonight's regular meeting agenda of Ms. Wallace from Planning Commission, so that we will have an additional appointment there, additional vacancy there. Any boards or commissions, colleagues, or staff that you'd like to discuss?
Madam Chair,
Ma'am.
I do think there were a couple applications that we had from the last series of PIFs. So Ms. Zylstra's one, I think that was a reappointment, but there may be a few others that I think the mayor's considering. So without reminding all of us of those, I know we had some communication, so I think we probably should have a few more for the next meeting. And then, can you scroll down, Mr. Clerk? So the one for, go back up a little bit. So the one for the Community Relations Commission, I guess a reminder for all of us and those that might be watching that the Community Relations Commission, as you were the previous chair of that, they have an additional process step. So, because I had somebody else ask me, and I said, they would be receiving those in and then following that process as well, which might take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
And can I also add that I know the mayor so is this opening reflective of that resignation, Daniel, or was this, okay, you were right on top of that.
Yeah, it was a little.
Okay. I wanted to make sure there was another one. And so I know Commissioner Robbins, Ms. Wallace is a first warder. So we usually try to find a balance between the wards.
Okay.
So I know she mentioned she would be, because I had asked about it. She had said she would be talking to you also. Okay.
I also received correspondence from someone on Planning Commission with some ideas and some thoughts around how we might fill those seats, or kind of the types of folks that they'd like to seek out. So
Okay.
we have a lot of movement on a number of boards in terms of filling vacancies. I know we've had some movement in staff liaison, so happy to see that updated here, particularly for the CRC and a few others. There's been some email back and forth around a few other openings, so there is movement that I think in the next few weeks or over the next few meetings we'll see more of these vacancies being filled. Any additional comments? Seeing none, we will adjourn the Committee on Appointments at 8:03. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. We'll call the Fiscal Committee to order here for March 19th, 2024. First item on the agenda this morning is a resolution accepting a $24,732.25 grant award from the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority for cyber risk reduction.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a grant reimbursement for our security awareness training platform, as well as our annual audit of our network penetration testing and vulnerabilities. MMRMA will do a 50% cost share with us. These are costs that we already incur.
Very good. Questions, comments, colleagues? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 2, resolution accepting a $75,000 grant award from the Steelcase Foundation for Grow 1000 Employer Community of Practice.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Harris, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So this resolution is to accept a 3-year grant in the amount of $75,000 from the Steelcase Foundation for the Grow 1000 Employer Community of Practice. This pilot will professionalize and improve employer preparation, and it is our hypothesis that employers who are youth-ready will be better prepared to provide meaningful employment experiences.
Very good. Questions, comments? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3, resolution accepting a $60,000 underrepresented communities grant from the National Park Service for the Auburn Hills Neighborhood Project.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Claren?
Yeah, I'll pinch it here. This is just a $60,000 grant award from the National Park Service Underrepresented Communities Grant Program. And it's developed the National Register of Historic Places nomination for the Auburn Hills neighborhood. So,
Very good. Questions or comments? Commissioner Sassi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just glad to see this item. I think at the end of last year, fall of last year, there was a few stories about the work that was being done to recognize the historical nature of Auburn Hills. And, as a 15-year resident of the Second Ward, as I moved over there, I got to hear about the history and the impact. And so I'm, again, just excited to see this move forward and the recognition to come.
Thank you. All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 4, resolution authorizing an agreement with the American Rivers for continued stormwater credit training program work in an amount not to exceed $50,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Tabor, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Daniel Tabor, Stormwater Manager with the city. And this here resolution is to continue our work with American Rivers, a nonprofit, to help implement, facilitate green infrastructure and our stormwater credit trading. Really, American Rivers is great with outreach, implementation, and program capacity and program management. So they've been with us since 2016, so just looking to continue that with them and their support.
Very good. Questions or comments? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5, resolution authorizing an agreement with First Tee of West Michigan to use the space at Indian Trails Golf Course for an annual amount not to exceed $2,500.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Mark?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a continuation of a longstanding relationship that we've had with First Tee of West Michigan. This has been a really great opportunity for us to inspire young people and youth within our community to learn the game of golf, but also to supplement some of their in-classroom learning. This is a 3-year agreement, $2,500 annually for that agreement.
Very good.
Steve.
Questions or comments? All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 6 is a resolution authorizing Grand Rapids Police Department recruit class 24-0 to attend Grand Valley State University for a cost of $93,560.
So moved.
Support.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is for our third and final sponsored recruit class of fiscal year '24. We expect to send 10 recruits to GVSU. They would begin at the end of April and be on the streets for solo patrol in January of 2025.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, recommendation to approve social media advertising expenditures to promote Dash Bus service and other multimodal transportation options in an amount not to exceed $100,000 on Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, and TikTok.
Support. So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Casper, good morning.
Good morning. The Mobile GR Department wishes to conduct a marketing campaign to help promote the Dash bus service and other transportation demand management options offered by the city. So based on performance of past marketing and advertising campaigns, staff believe that social media advertising will provide the greatest return on investment and reach the widest audience of downtown residents and visitors. This campaign is part of our approved budget for FY24. Advertisements and promoted posts on YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok will feature content on Dash bus service and multimodal transportation options, as well as safety awareness included with those options. These platforms allow Mobile GR to reach a wide range of demographics and communities within the West Michigan footprint to promote multimodalism and sustainable, equitable, and affordable transportation options in alignment with the city's strategic plan goals of sustainability and innovation. So this marketing campaign is planned to run for 5 months in the spring and summer of 2024 with total expenditures across YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok not to exceed $100,000.
Very good. Colleagues, questions, comments, suggestions for TikTok videos?
Don't ask me that. It's not my specialty.
All right. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank
you. Item 8, resolution authorizing a budget substitution for $12,622 for the East Side Sewer Improvements Program Separation Project Contract Numbers 4 and 5 and East Side Sewer Improvements Program Separation Project Contract 23B.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Berkman, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this is a housekeeping item to clear up 2 right-of-way acquisitions that were necessary for the East Side Sewer Separation Program back in 2005 and 2012. We've been working with outside counsel to resolve this involving 2 properties located at 307 Franklin and 56 Batavia. Payments will come from the remaining escrow held for each of these properties, which totals $5,708, but requesting your approval of this substitution of $12,622 from the Streets Capital Fund to finalize this matter.
Very good. Questions or comments? All right, hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, resolution authorizing capital improvement bonds in an amount not to exceed $80.5 million for the Scribner facility and amphitheater.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
Good morning. This resolution will allow the city to issue bonds both for the Scribner facility and the amphitheater, which would be repaid by the DDA. The Scribner facility would be in an amount not to exceed $60 million, and the amphitheater an amount not to exceed $20 million. We would also cover the issue costs with the proceeds of the bonds. The Scribner issue would be repaid in 30 years, and the amphitheater portion in 20.
Very good. Colleagues, questions or comments about this? All right. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Item 10 is an ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2023-15 for fiscal year 2024, Amendment Number 9.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Claren?
Good morning, Commissioners. The first item on our BA this morning is the Water Career Program out of the Water Department, just under $60,000 appropriations into the Other Grants Fund with a corresponding decrease in the increase in the Water Department's Other Grants Fund and a corresponding decrease in the Environmental Services Grants Fund. I'm sorry, the words I heard this morning. Okay, number 2, we have out of IT that the $253,125 appropriations in their capital fund with a corresponding decrease in retained earnings. Number 3, this is the reconstruction of Cesar Chavez Avenue. This is between Clyde Park Avenue and Hall Street. We also have a reimbursement of $2,271 from the Rapids. So this appropriation is going to increase just over $1.5 million in revenue appropriations to the Capital Improvement Bond Series 2021 Bond Fund with also an increase of $2,271 of revenue appropriations in the Vital Streets Capital Non-Bond Fund. Number 4, reconstruction of Crescent Street Alley. This is for $136,072. This is in the capital projects the Streets Capital Projects Fund. Then we have number 5, Division Avenue Improvements. This is $2,688,051 in the Capital Improvement 2021 Bond Fund with no effect on fund balance, and also an increase of $275,385 in revenue appropriation in the Capital Improvement Fund. Number 6, this is the Michaels Public Safety Academy Assistance Program, $48,000 in the Revenue and Appropriations of Police Grants Fund. Number 7, this is for the Public Museum expansion, $4 million. This, I'll remind you, this is just related to the Greenway Grant Program. We are setting the appropriation, but anticipate reimbursement from that Greenway Grant Program that's being managed by DGRI. So we'll get a reimbursement eventually for this revenue. So we're appropriating that in the Capital Improvement Fund. Number 8, participatory budget investments. If you do look at the attachment, you'll see specifically this $1,950,000 in appropriations in the general operating fund. It's going to be run out of the executive office department, but per the attachment, you'll see the breakdown of the contract awards, when it was awarded. Now that they've worked through the contracts, they're ready to appropriate the money and put this money to use. As you recall, our participatory budgeting total budget was $2 million. We did allocate $50 million towards cure violence in the second ward, so that's why we're working with this total of $1,950,000. Our contingent balance remains unchanged at $935,080.21. Any questions?
Very good, thank you. Questions or comments, colleagues? None. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 12 is going to be the city manager's report on contract and purchase approvals for January through March of 2024. Board number 1.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Anyone from the executive office? Ms. Claren, you want to?
As far as, these, if we're talking about the report on contracts and purchases, those were just underneath the city manager's authority, what he's approved between January and March, but we came back for, as we said, we would give a quarterly report so we could, see the kinds of things that are going across his desk. But we do need to go back and hit the bid list, I believe, as well. I think we leapfrogged it.
Yeah. Did we skip the bid list?
Yeah.
Very good.
I got talking too much about the VA, so I apologize. You're
All right,
sick of me talking.
We'll take 12 out of order since you spoke about it, and if there's any questions about that. If not, that report can be received and filed, and we'll jump back to 11, the bid list resolution for March 19, 2024.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Any questions, colleagues, about any of those items?
I don't have any questions.
All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 13, Comptroller's warrant report for period 2/21/24 through 3/5/24 in the amount of $25,800,000.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just a warrant report from us this morning, and for the period referenced, the city released cash payments totaling approximately $25.8 million. That amount includes just under $5.2 million for employee payroll expense and approximately $195,000 for income tax warrants. In terms of quantity, 1,185 income tax refunds were issued and 1,153 checks and electronic payments were issued. And as always, the tables on the following pages contain the details of all those payments that exceeded $20,000.
Very good. Questions or comments for the Comptroller? All right, with that report will be received and filed. And we'll close our meeting today with the Treasurer's report for the period February 21, 24 through March 4, 2024.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Yes,
with our report today, we've got something I think is very noteworthy. As I was working with our investment officer, Levi Bolt, over the past few weeks, we were able to identify Michigan Housing Development Authority issued some two large bond issues. One was $126.3 million, and those items were really important to us because those are taxable fixed rate bonds. Those are things that we really look forward to grabbing because we're not taxed. So the taxable bonds really are things that we like to go get. But I want to point out the third paragraph of this report specifically because the proceeds of these bonds will be used to permanently finance affordable single-family mortgage loans and down payment assistance loans generally made to first-time home buyers of low and moderate income in communities across the state. The proceeds are intended to be used in a manner consistent with the International Capital Market Association's social bond principles. When we talk about social bonds, we often refer to as ESG bonds or an impact investing, as working the city invest their money to uplift the community in different areas. In most cases, we're not able to participate because those bonds are not qualified under Public Act 20, or they're not comparable to other competing offers in the market, and so therefore they would be priced out. We would be out going getting U.S. Treasuries or other municipal bonds that have a higher yield, that have maybe a higher, a shorter maturity time frame that we're looking for, because a lot of the ESG bonds sometimes are 30 and 40 and 50 years out there. That's how long some of these projects are. So really, this is important for us because this is a way we are really looking for these types of bonds when they become available, because we want to be a player in that game. We want our money to be used in this manner as we do our investments. And as we look at these, we're also talking about having that large amount of money, the $240 million of very short-term city money that we're looking to move out further. We were able to secure maturities between 2031 and 2039, so 7 to 15 years out there, and they're earning between 5.296 and 5.573%. So now we're talking about having that type of interest rate now for 7 to 15 years. And so that will help us as a city to bridge any gap if there's going to be a recession or interest rates tighten up. We're still going to be earning that high rate of interest. And that's another thing that's very important to us. And so this is really calling out Mr. Bolt's work to continue to talk to our dealers and go through the details of these types of offerings. We're able to find the different players and broker dealers that we have that look out for us, that are our business partners as we're going out to capture as many of these bonds as we possibly can. We would have liked to have captured more, but because of all the different bidders in the market, we're prorated only a specific amount. With our portfolio today, though, we are sitting at $570 million with a purchase yield of 2.97%.
Very good. Questions or comments for the treasurer? All right, hearing none, that report will be received and filed. And with that, we can conclude our fiscal committee meeting here at 8:47. Thank you, everyone.
right, good morning, everybody. It's approximately 9:16. We'll go ahead and get our community development meeting underway. We've got 19 items before us this morning. I'm going to try and hustle through them as quick as possible, pending any questions or concerns. So we'll go ahead and jump right in here. First resolution before us is a resolution awarding a contract with Anlon Corporation for sidewalk improvements in Collindale Avenue from Burt Street to 1,070 feet south of Leonard Street in the amount of $596,194 with a total amount not to exceed $880,200.
So move.
All right, moved and supported. Mr. Bergman.
Yes, good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. So this contract is for the northern portion of the Collindale project. We split it into two, as you'll recall, with Burritt being the dividing line. So this is Burritt to just up south of Leonard where sidewalk already exists. The work will be funded through ARPA funding. The segment to the south from Lake Michigan Drive up to Burritt and then west on Burritt was already awarded by MDOT through a TAP grant. Received 4 bids on February 20th. Anlon provided the low bid of $596,194, which was below our engineer's estimate of $758,000. So asking for your approval of the award to Anlon with the total not to exceed amount of $880,200, and construction will begin later this spring.
Great, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none. I think I saw some cones already set up over on Collindale, so we're very excited about that.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Resolution number 2 is a resolution approving 2 agreements, accepting a warranty deed, approving a quit-claim deed, dedicating public right-of-way, and authorizing payments in an amount not to exceed $450,000 for reconstruction of Eastern Avenue from Burton Street to Ardmore Street.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So a lot of parts to this, but this item ultimately completes the right-of-way work necessary for that Eastern Avenue project that's going to run from Burton to Ardmore. It involves a creative arrangement between 2 properties along that corridor. The project will ultimately include traffic safety, sidewalk, and pedestrian crossing upgrades and improvements. To accomplish that, though, we needed right-of-way from the 803 Burton parcel, which is located at the northeast corner of Burton and Eastern, to provide that safe pedestrian crossing. Right now, the driveway area is right in the middle of where that needs to be. When the city made a good faith offer regarding the minimum easements necessary to accomplish the project objectives, the property owner counter offered, wishing to sell the entire property for the value that was indicated in the appraisal report of $235,000. In discussing this with various city departments, it was determined that the improvements would enhance the project design if we had control of the entire property. And various options were considered with what to do for the disposition of what's not required for the project. There's an existing tenant at 803 Burton that operates a barbecue restaurant, and that tenant is eligible for compensation as a displaced tenant with the city's acquisition of the property. Now, that tenant is also the owner of the property immediately north at 1956 Eastern, and she would like to continue to operate her barbecue restaurant at 803 Burton, and as such, in talking with city staff, she was agreeable into entering into an agreement to exchange the value of any displacement compensation that she would be entitled to for ownership of the remainder of 803 Burton, essentially the building. Now, approval of these agreements with the property owners would eliminate the need to file eminent domain court proceedings, which could result in additional costs and further delay. So we're pleased with the outcome and this proposed resolution that's before you. In addition to these agreements, the resolution accepts the warranty deed for 803 Burton. It approves a quitclaim deed for the remainder of 803 that's not required to the owner of 1956 Eastern, dedicates the public right-of-way required for the project, and authorizes those payments not to exceed $450,000, which would come from the Vital Streets Fund.
Great to hear. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It carries. Resolution number 3 is a resolution approving an increase of $27,550 for reconstruction of and water main in the Ottawa Avenue, Coldbrook Street, Monroe Avenue intersection, decommissioning of Coldbrook Pumping Station for a total not to exceed $5,389,550.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So this project was originally awarded back in the fall of 2022, and we just substantially completed it before the onset of winter. During construction, though, we needed to adjust the scope for our own street lighting and telecommunications systems, as well as some additional coordination that was needed with private utilities in that very heavily congested intersection below ground. This required additional engineering through our consultants and sub-consultants, Fishbeck and Geotech, so requesting your approval of this $27,550 increase, which will be financed by the Capital Improvement Fund.
Great, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It carries. Resolution number 4 is a resolution entering into a professional services agreement with Progressive AE and authorizing preliminary design services in connection with the surface deck and waterproofing replacement and various enhancements at Calder Plaza in an amount of $140,980 with a total amount not to exceed $157,900.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So our asset management plan is calling for the full replacement of the surface decking and the underlying waterproofing system of the Calder Plaza. The city, together with DGRI and the county, has been looking at enhancements to the plaza for quite some time. However, that was stalled when the pandemic set in. And before picking that effort back up associated with the enhancements, it was determined that those should naturally align with this planned replacement work, as that would be the opportune time to do both. As a result, the project team went through a qualifications-based selection process to seek design services for the project, and we're recommending that Progressive AE perform these services. Progressive also helped develop the comprehensive plan for the plaza back in 2018, and as a result has a strong knowledge base and familiarity with the plaza and kind of what the vision could be for that. So this agreement before you is for the preliminary design services and is in the amount of $140,980. Once the final scope of the project is determined, we'll return to you to seek authorization for subsequent phases of the design. Also want to note that the DDA approved their participation in this design work last week at their meeting in the amount of $49,343. The balance will come from the Parking System Fund and Capital Improvement Fund.
Great, thanks. Any questions, colleagues?
No questions. Just glad to see this move forward. It's been on the back burner for a long time.
Yes, likewise. I know the conversation's been going on for a long time, so really excited to see that moving forward. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Resolution number 5 is a resolution approving decertifications from the city's local street system 2023 Act 51 Street System Report.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So each year we certify or decertify street segments as they're either added to or removed from our local street network and report that as part of our Act 51 annual report, which impacts the funding that's received through that public act. In 2023, there were 2 segments that were closed to traffic and subsequently need to be removed from our system. As part of the Eastern Avenue project at 36th Street, there was a short cutoff in the northeast corner that was removed and subsequently closed. So that segment, as well as the portion of Bond that we have vacated, in the process of vacating, but has since been closed to traffic for Corwell's Center for Transformation and Innovation Campus, those 2 segments total 995 feet. And so we're asking for your approval of this decertification resolution to submit that to the state.
Great, thanks. Questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Resolution number 6 is a resolution rescinding a resolution approving a construction agreement in the amount of $39,973 and accepting public utilities easements for Marywood Main building renovation.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
At your February 6th meeting, Commission approved this construction agreement and accepted utility easements associated with this housing project located north of Fulton and west of Lakeside Drive. The developer, however, listed in the resolution for the construction agreement was a former name, and the grantor of the public utilities easement was also incorrectly listed. So this resolution rescinds the former, corrects those names, and again approves the construction agreement and accepts utility easements, all the same as they were for the public sewer and water main that will be serving the development.
Great, thanks. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That carries. Resolution number 7 is a resolution approving a release of a portion of easement for Meadow Springs RPUD-Phase 3.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
Back in 2019, Commission accepted an easement located at the south end of this housing development in Walker to accommodate future extension of water main to the adjacent parcel to the south. Since that time, it's been determined that the extension would be made in another location, and as such, this easement's no longer necessary. So this resolution would provide for the release of that.
Great, thanks. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Resolution number 8 is a resolution awarding a contract with Universal Sign Incorporated Government Center Ramp wayfinding signage in the amount of $198,744 with a total amount not to exceed $297,075.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported.
We're working with Mobile GR on this project that'll improve the internal signage and wayfinding of this government center parking structure beneath us with new directional signage, traffic, flow signs, monument identification, and stairwell and elevator access signs. With the recently completed elevator that provides service now from all levels to the Calder Plaza, as well as anticipated plans to add another elevator within the complex that would service the Monroe level and the associated ADA parking improvements along with that, it's necessary to provide better direction and information to visitors of this facility. Received 4 bids on February 29th. Universal Sign provided that low bid amount of $198,744, which was under our engineer's estimate of $287,000. So asking for your approval of this award and the authorization of the project expenditures not to exceed $297,075 coming from the Parking Systems Fund.
Great, thank you. Any questions, colleagues?
I have a question, Chair.
Yep.
City Engineer, why do we need it to not to exceed 297 when the amount came back at 198? That seems pretty significant to me.
Yeah, so we always provide a breakdown of costs after the resolution, and so that the construction contract being $198,000, there was $43,000 in design from Progressive, also $11,000 for construction phase services by Progressive. We have administration costs of $12,500, so that subtotal gets to $265,000, and then we put in typically 12% in project contingencies for any needs that could arise. So that's what gets to the not to exceed of $297,000.
Yeah, I saw that in the packet. It just seems, in my opinion, a bit excessive that we have, over $60,000 in additional costs when the bid came back at 198.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost adding a third of the cost to the contract.
Right. I mean, there's always investigation that goes into, the placement of this, the design of this, but that's kind of the cost of doing the project. I don't know if Jennifer has anything else to add from your end in terms of kind of the project design or what you guys have been involved with.
The design services were competitively bid, and Progressive was the low bidder.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for the context. Any other questions, Commissioner Knight? All good? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That carries. That brings us to resolution number 9, which is a resolution awarding an agreement with Clark Construction Company Incorporated for pre-construction services for the fire training facility at 850 Pennell Street in the amount of $170,848, worth total authorized expenditures not to exceed $2,313,518.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So we're working with the fire department, of course, on the development of their new training facility to be located at 850 Pennell Street. The design services were previously awarded last October with Williams Architects in the amount of $1,746,000. So that's the significant portion of that not to exceed amount that was just read. The project team has since gone through a qualification-based selection process to procure a construction manager for the project, and the team selected Clark Construction Company as the most qualified firm. Clark is also serving as our construction manager for the 1500 Scribner project. Clark has provided a proposal to assist with pre-construction services, which would include their advisement on the design process, as well as providing cost estimating for various options along the way. So seeking your approval of their agreement, that a specific amount with Clark of $170,848, and that will come from the Capital Improvement Fund.
Great, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Resolution number 10 is a resolution awarding a contract with Ellis McLean Construction LLC for sidewalk and ADA ramp repair at various locations for 2024 in the amount of $588,098 with a total amount not to exceed $660,000.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So Commission's previously awarded our systematic repair contract, which focuses on a specific area, this year being in the first ward. This is our contract that covers the entirety of the city when repairs are identified that are necessary. And so we utilize this contract for those sidewalk deficiency repairs as well as ADA ramp installations across the city. Received 2 bids on February 29th. Ellis McLean provided the low bid of $588,098. Which was below our engineer's estimate of $611,000. So asking for your approval of the award to Ellis. The total not to exceed of $660,000 will come from the sidewalk repair fund.
Great, thanks. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Resolution number 11 is a resolution approving an increase of $885,095 for LMFP low lift crib, chlorine line replacement for a total not to exceed $1,063,130.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported, Mr. Berkman.
There's a 4-inch chlorine line that services the south water intake crib off the shore of Lake Michigan, which helps control zebra mussels from accumulating on that intake structure. In August of 2022, it was discovered that there was a break in that line, and it was subsequently removed from service. Last July, Commission approved entering into a construction agreement with Freedom Construction and Consulting, which allowed us to procure the 4-inch pipe that had a lengthy lead time due to the significant distance that's required for that line. Now it's necessary to authorize the remaining scope, which includes a marine crew installing that pipe, underwater inspection and connection of the pipe, and other associated site work. So the resolution before you increases the scope of work accordingly, increases the agreement with Freedom specifically by $698,760, bringing that total authorization to $1,063,130, with financing coming from the Water Fund as well as the Water Systems Fund.
Great, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Resolution number 12 is a resolution approving option agreements in the eventual sale of 854 First Street Northwest and 1201 Cass Street Southeast pursuant to City Commission Policy 900-63.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Closter.
So I'll give Mr. Berkman a break here for a second. We're happy to be bringing these resolutions to you more often at this point. So this would approve the option agreement and eventual sale of 2 properties. The first is 854 First Street, which is an existing home that's been condemned. New Development Corporation will renovate that at a cost of approximately $265,000 and make it available for sale to a household below 80% AMI. That project is funded in part by the Affordable Housing Fund. And then the second is 1201 Cass Street, which is a vacant lot, which will be optioned to Maurice Townsend, who will move an existing home from across the street on property that is part of the Motown Square Affordable Senior Housing Project. So moving that home is required in order for that project to proceed, and that project is anticipated to close yet this week, hopefully.
Great, thank you. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Resolution number 13 is a resolution scheduling a public hearing for April 9th, 2024 to consider establishing an obsolete property rehabilitation district pursuant to Public Act 146 of 2000 for MWS Ottawa LLC at 975 Ottawa Avenue Northwest.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported.
So this is a little bit odd in that we normally bring you both the items for a public hearing for the Oprah district and the Oprah application together. You only have the Oprah district here for this project, and that's because the establishment of the district is required prior to applicant proceeding with pulling building permits. The applicant here which is proposing to renovate the existing 45,000 square foot facility for restaurant, event space, and recreation facility to be known as the Silva, which we're excited about. They need to do some exploratory demolition prior to finalizing their scope for that project, and so proceeding with the establishment of a district gives them the flexibility to do that. It's a proactive step we can take to encourage the rehabilitation of this obsolete building, and it has no risk associated with it. A future application would come to you and be evaluated as all other projects would be.
Great, thank you. Colleagues, any questions on that one? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. Resolution number 14 is a resolution scheduling a public hearing for April 9th, 2024 to consider an obsolete property rehabilitation district pursuant to Public Act 146 of 2000 for 130 Packard LLC at 130 Packard Avenue Southeast.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So we're back to the normal process here with two items related to 130 Packard, which is just north of Cherry Street near the Uptown Corridor Improvement Authority district. So this is an existing building that's 1,352 square feet, most recently used as a lock shop, but in a significant state of disrepair and functionally obsolete currently. A developer anticipates renovating the first floor for future retail and then adding a second floor as well with a two-bedroom apartment expected to be available for rent there. The investment in this project is about $475,000 with $400,000 of hard construction costs, and the applicant is working towards a 35% participation rate for women-owned, minority-owned, or micro-local contractors. 2 full-time jobs and 2 part-time jobs could be created depending on the tenant of the first floor in the future. It's really a nice little infill project, adding a little bit of density in the East Hills neighborhood there. And it was, as it's in a historic district, it was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission in February, and the East Hills Council of Neighbors has also provided a letter of support. So the next 2 items would schedule the resolutions, or schedule the public hearings on this project to be held on April 9th.
Great, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. And then resolution number 15, as mentioned, as a partner resolution, is a resolution scheduling a public hearing for April 9th, 2024 to consider an application for a 10-year obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate pursuant to PA 146 of 2000 for 130 Packard LLC at 130 Packard Avenue Southeast.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Any further comments? No? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Resolution number 16, resolution scheduling a public hearing for April 9th, 2024 to consider an obsolete property rehabilitation district pursuant to Public Act 146 of 2000 for Pier 662 LLC at 662 Leonard Street Northwest.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Closter.
Thanks. So again, 2 items related to this project at 662 Leonard in the West Leonard Business District. The existing building is functionally obsolete. It's about 6,300 square feet, most recently used as sort of a miscellaneous storage and auto shop. Pure 662, which is an entity affiliated with Pure Architects, plans to give the property a facelift and renovate the interior for sort of a recreational entertainment facility with golf simulators, pickleball courts, and a bar. The investment in this project is expected to be approximately $2 million with $1.6 million of construction costs. Again, applicant participating in the inclusion plan program and targeting 21.5% participation from minority women-owned or micro-local subcontractors. 1 full-time and 4 part-time jobs expected with wages of $20 an hour here. This project was approved by the Planning Commission previously in February related to the proposed sale of alcohol and then a parking waiver as well. Project was supported by the West Grand Neighborhood Organization, which provided a letter of support. The Brownfield Authority provided an environmental site assessment grant for the project, and the West Side Corridor Improvement Authority will consider a facade improvement grant for the project as well.
Great, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none, I'll just add, I know there's been considerable interest in this property for quite some time now on the west side, so we look forward to welcoming them. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That carries. Resolution number 17 is a resolution scheduling a public hearing for April 9th, 2024 to consider an application for an 11-year obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate pursuant to Public Act 146 of 2000 for Pier 662 LLC at 662 Leonard Street Northwest.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any other questions, colleagues? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. We've got two more resolutions. Resolution number 18 is a resolution awarding a contract with Caterberg Verhage Incorporated for road improvements at Fairplain Cemetery in the amount of $748,130 with total amount not to exceed $1,050,000.
Support.
Moved and supported, and back to Mr. Berkman.
All right, thanks for that intermission, Mr. Klooster. So Fairplains Cemetery is located north of Knapp Street and west of Fuller Avenue, and in 2018, as part of the city's asset management plan for city lots, it was determined that there were 4 years of life remaining on that roadway system, and that it should be prioritized as the first cemetery to receive funding for reconstruction of the internal roadway system. We took bids on February 29th, received 6 of them, and Caterberg submitted the low bid of $748,130, which was well below the engineer's estimate of $1,084,000. So asking for your approval of the award to Caterberg, that total not to exceed amount of $1,050,000 coming from the Parks Capital Project Fund.
Thank you. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. And lastly, we've got resolution number 19, which is a resolution approving grant applications in the amount of $2,825,000 to the Michigan Department of Transportation to be matched with a city share of $678,900 in connection with preventative maintenance and rehabilitation of various bridges.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So MDOT has issued their call for projects for preventative maintenance and rehabilitation for bridges. This is for work in fiscal year 2027. We would like to submit an application for funding on 2 bridges, the first being the 6th Street Bridge over the Grand River. Preventative maintenance work would include cleaning and coating, repairs to the sidewalk, and repairs to the east approach. And then the Oxford Bridge over the abandoned C&O Railroad, which is located just west of Godfrey, would include actual removal of that bridge and reconstruction of this street. Parks is working on a tunnel passage that would occur under the reconstructed street in order to extend the Oxford Trail south towards Hall Street. So the total estimate and request for these 2 projects is $2,825,000. If successful, that would be matched with the city share of $678,900. So asking for your approval to submit this application for these bridges, which would be the first step in this process.
Great, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. So that will conclude our business for today. We've got community of the whole back here at 10 o'clock. We will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 9:43.
Thank you, Chair. morning, everyone, and welcome to our Committee of the Whole meeting on this March 19th. I'm going to start the meeting. So, Commissioners, we have a number of action items, and then we have a presentation of our Economic Development Department's annual report. But before we get started with our action item, I want to take just a couple minutes. As all of us know, we had a significant water main break on Sunday, resulting in our pump stations being impacted, and a lot of work has been done. Our city staff responded as quickly as possible. I see Wayne Jernberg there in the back and James Hurt. I know their entire team has been working overtime to respond and get us back to 100% with our water system. So I want to say thank you to all of our city staff who stepped up and have been working around the clock over these last couple days, as well as our city leadership team and our emergency operating center, which was opened. Really appreciate everyone responding so quickly. With that, we have a number of updates. We do have water distribution happening. It started last night. It will go throughout today. We're working with 211 to identify, those who need assistance with getting access to bottled water. But to take just a couple minutes, I'd like to turn it over to our city manager to provide just a little bit more detailed update. He has a memo that he's going to share with all of us. And then also we'll be providing additional information throughout the day through our communications department as we continue to work through this incident. So with that, City Manager, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Mayor. And good morning, Commissioners. I want to provide just a few additional details about the incident and what's transpired since the activation of the Emergency Operations Center on Sunday, March 17th. In response to the water main break and the disruption of service that affected the northeast quadrant of our city. Let me begin by saying how much I appreciate the difficulty that this incident has caused and inconvenienced the lives of our residents, businesses, and schools, and hopefully this is just an incidental and temporary moment, as we've had a history of producing very good and reliable and quality water service. At this time, our staff and the community, we're very focused on recovery activities, and what I'd like to do is offer a preliminary report based on my conversations I've had with Water Department leadership as well as my senior executive team. According to the data from the Water Department system, it appears that the earliest signs of an issue occurred around 12:30 on Sunday, March 17th. The operators further noticed that the pressure dropped when the pumps at the Livingston pump station began to shut down at approximately 1:20 p.m. They were unable to start up any pumps at the station remotely because of the pressure drop and the low pressure in this part of the system. This also decreased the water pressure at several other pumping stations in the area, which eventually impacted a much broader area in which the main break occurred. The city began receiving concerns through 311 and other calls around 1:30 Sunday afternoon. Additional field crews were called back to troubleshoot the issues at the pump stations and were able to get the pumps turned on around 2 p.m. The staff was also able to locate the exact location of the main break around 2:30. The break was isolated and contained at 6 o'clock that evening, but most users of our water system were able to have some usable water and pressure as early as 4:30 p.m. The boil advisory notice was required because the lower pressure could have allowed bacteria and groundwater and other sources of non-treated water to enter pipes due to the pressure differences and the failures. The first boil water notice was issued at 3:30 with the generalized area impact. Once the water advisory area was finalized, we had issued a new map with the final boil advisory notice at 6:45 p.m. The advisory continues to remind residents not to drink tap water without boiling it first. Boiled or bottled water should be used for drinking, making ice, brushing teeth, washing dishes, and food preparation. We continue to push out information and communication on all our media platforms, such as social media, Nextdoor, and through our neighborhood associations and other community-based organizations. Persons who are in the impacted areas of Grand Rapids and Grand Rapids Township are continued to adhere to the advisory until it is lifted. We plan to get the results of our first official tests sometime this afternoon, and we will have our final testing results tomorrow. Should both be okay, we hope to have the boil advisory lifted tomorrow. We've also were able to engage our community emergency response trained volunteers that have been managed by our emergency management office in helping us with the distribution of bottled water. Spartan Ash, in conjunction with the City of Grand Rapids, hosted the bottled water distribution event yesterday, and we were able to distribute over 2,600 cases of water between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. yesterday, and that distribution will occur again at the same location today from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 1635 Leonard Street. Again, we appreciate our community partners coming together, and there are other organizations such as Meyer and World Renew that have also agreed to donate additional bottled water for distribution if needed. Today, there was approximately 30 cases of water that was brought to Mel Trotter by our fire department. An additional 30 cases also was delivered to Degage Ministries by our fire department, so I appreciate their work in that. Just a little bit more detail on the break. So the specifics that caused the break was due to a 12-inch main near Carrier Creek. The main began losing connectivity due to water pressure, and although it's a 12-inch main, it was connected to a much larger 30-inch line on two 30-inch lines on Colebrook as well as Leonard. And when the pressure, when the system began to depressurize, there was automatic shutoffs that occurred in areas larger than the initial main break, and that's why we had such a large regional impact. And so while I'm so grateful for, as the mayor has indicated, our water system employees and many of the first responders and those who have been working on this, providing a quick response to this incident, while we take a lot of pride in being a regional producer of safe and healthy drinking water, we know this outage has disrupted the lives of community members and do apologize for the impacts that this has had on them. In addition to the water department's internal review of the maintenance history on the main in question that broke, I've also asked the city engineer to independently review systems work related to this instance and the automatic shutoffs and provide me a report of findings. Once complete, I will provide a future update on any findings associated and any associated actions. Again, today is a preliminary report on what I know at this time, but additional details will be forthcoming based on specific views by the subject matter experts in this department. So I appreciate the opportunity to give you and the public an update.
Yeah, thank you so much, City Manager, and I'll echo what our City Manager said. I know I speak for this entire body that many of us have talked to residents and business owners, and we feel terrible about the disruption, especially to our small businesses who weren't able to open yesterday. But I also really appreciate the community stepping up and helping out one another and helping us get through this, and hopefully it will be resolved as quickly as possible. So thank you, City Manager, and the entire, as I said, city staff team. Commissioners, with that, I'm going to turn to our action items before us this morning. We do have 7 action items before we get to our presentation. We'll start with the first one. This is a resolution scheduling a special meeting of the City Commission on April 30th and May 14th, and this is related to the review of our proposed preliminary fiscal plan. We all know that that's been worked on by our City Manager and City Leadership Team for several months and will be formally presented to us, and then we'll be working through the budget process over the next couple months. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. City Clerk, you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, so what will be added to our normal work schedule is a April 30 budget workshop at 9 a.m. And then also May 14, a special budget workshop meeting starting at 5 o'clock before the 7 o'clock meeting if needed. I think that's the public hearing night. So if the commission needs additional work on the budget, that'll be a time for that.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. This is scheduled for 9 to noon, correct? Is that the
budget
proposal?
workshop, only on the April 30th.
Right, but the end time is noon?
I believe so. I believe that's what we have held. We might get out earlier. Sometimes we do.
Okay.
Get out a little bit earlier. But that is what I have held on my schedule, 9 a.m. to noon.
Okay. That's all. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. And Commissioners, those should be already on your Outlook calendar. If they're not, then let us know. All right, next that will take us to a presentation of fiscal year 2025 Neighborhood Investment Plan Funding Recommendation. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. We have Ms. Bohach to tell us about this item. And Commissioners, we do have just one abstention among this body today because we have a colleague who serves on some boards of organizations that are recommended in this plan. So we'll go ahead and get started with Ms. Bohach.
Sorry about that. And there's no action that's required. This is just presenting the funding recommendations for the FY 2025 Neighborhood Investment Plan. And there's a lot of process that we'll talk about a little later in the presentation that we get through before you'll make final decisions. So just to give some background and context, we are required by the federal government to, when we receive the Community Development Block Grant, the Home Investment Partnerships, and the Emergency Solutions Grants, we're required to have a 5-year plan referred to as the Housing and Community Development Plan. Our current plan covers the period of July 1, 2021 through June 30th of 2026, and it serves as our strategic plan for allocation and use of those funds. And within that, we do a sort of summarize. It's a very extensive document, and so we summarize and identify community priorities and needs under what we call the Neighborhood Investment Plan, and we have 8 outcomes that we do that allocation process through. We're also required on an annual basis to submit a plan that they refer to as the Annual Action Plan, and it identifies the specific investments that you're making and the projects that will be carried out with those resources from July 1 to June 30th of each year of that 5-year plan. We have a variety of funding sources that are available, and the first and I'd say the core of those resources come from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, as you see listed here. We have the Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnerships, and Emergency Solutions Grant funds. Congress did just appropriate the funding that would be used for this process. So we have high-level numbers. The CDBG program remained flat. ESG remained the same. There was a slight decrease in the home investment partnerships in terms of that high-level amount that's available to communities. We will not know our actual numbers until HUD runs. It's a formula, and so once they run those numbers, we will have a definitive allocation. So we use estimates, and we are estimating about around a $240,000 reduction in the home program, and our recommendations reflect that. We also are allocating $1.5 million of ARPA funds from the city, as well as $86,000 of JAG funds that we do have available now, and $800,000 of opioid settlement funds. And again, this is allocated through the Neighborhood Investment Plan process, where we have the 8 outcomes that we use as the framework to solicit and select projects. Just some information about what we have done leading up to this time frame. Trying to make sure that folks are aware that we have funds available for allocation. So early on in September, we host some information sessions just to let folks know that there will be funds available, help them learn about what's required when you are a recipient of federal funds, helping your organization prepare for that, make sure that you're interested in doing that, because there are rules and regulations that sometimes don't make it the most easy money to use. And so we try to provide technical assistance and help organizations get ready. And then we have a whole series of notifications about the process as we get closer, hold workshops for the process, and then also provide one-on-one technical support for any organizations that require it or request it. So the actual application process itself is a two-step process. We have first a notice of intent to apply, where organizations provide us some base information, and then we select projects to be submitted, organizations and the projects to be submitted for a full application. We had 63 organizations that submitted a notice of intent to apply. 49 were invited with projects with a total of 108 projects in those applications, and those projects in total were requesting more than $27 million. And we are allocating around $9.2 million. So you can see there's a big gap in terms of what was requested and the hard work that we had to do to make the recommendations. But I have a great team that works with the Community Development Department. We have 3 commissioners that make up our RFP work group. There's one from each ward, and this year Commissioners Purdue, Robbins, and Asasi helped with this process. We also, under the proposals under Outcome 1, we also have the Coalition to End Homelessness has their own funding review committee for their processes. We have them look at those projects as well and provide some input that inform these recommendations. The projects that are recommended for funding, of course, address the needs in the Housing and Community Development Consolidated Plan. They align with the city's strategic plan, and we look to maximize our limited resources. So an attachment to your agenda item today has a spreadsheet that can look pretty complex because we have all of these funding sources identified. They all have different rules and regulations attached to them, and so we sort of have a shading chart. So if the box is not shaded under a certain funding source, it means that particular project is eligible for funding there. And it's how we look at all of our resources and try to match them up with the rules and regulations, and then also what can be best applied to that project. So I will get right into the recommendations now, and these are high level. So under Outcome 1 of the Neighborhood Investment Plan, there is it's recommended that just over $2 million to support efforts to obtain or retain housing stability for individuals and families experiencing homelessness or who are at risk of homelessness. And there are a variety of projects here that provide financial assistance and supportive services and street outreach and prevention services. There is a project that is here that is newly opened. It's a transitional housing project through Degage Ministries, providing complex care for persons who are chronically homeless, who have significant mental and medical needs. Under Outcome 2, there's $270,000 of being recommended to support housing stability and equitable access to affordable housing. There are projects to support down payment assistance for homeownership, education for fair housing services, and pre-purchase housing counseling, as well as legal assistance. Outcome 3, there's $1.7 million to support efforts to increase the number of newly constructed and rehabilitated affordable rental and homeownership units that are available to low and moderate income households. These projects are broken up into 2 different segments here. This level of investment will create 80 new affordable units, rental units, as well as provide homeownership opportunities for 11 households. The dwelling place projects, because I know that that's a question that has been asked in the past, but the dwelling place project will be in the CLT in the end. Outcome 4, $3.2 million is being recommended here that support the preservation of affordable housing, home repair and accessibility improvements to help keep people in their homes, and improve health and safety and reduce blight. We have one project here that is a preservation of an existing rental property that will be rehabilitated and then put back on the market as a home for a qualified homeowner to purchase through dwelling place. And then the others are home repair services through a variety of organizations, and as well as supporting code compliance to ensure compliance with various city housing codes. Outcome 5, just over $260,000, is to support actions that build relationships, lift resident voice, and enhance neighborhood stability. Some of the types of activities that we do there this is primarily through our neighborhood organization partners who do community organizing, provide education to residents and referral services. And these are all neighborhood associations with the exception of Link Up, who does an education program. Outcome 6, Safe Community, just over $1.4 million, supports efforts that enhance resident safety and quality of life in neighborhoods. And again, this is through our neighborhood association partners and providing services for crime prevention, education and organizing, and violence reduction strategies and other services. We also have support for Family Outreach Center, which is the expanded outpatient services that provide mental health services to the uninsured and underinsured. Outcome 6 is, continued with we have newly in this funding process, the opioid settlement funds. And so there were projects solicited to specifically include activities that are for the care, treatment, and other types of programs that are designed to address the misuse and abuse of opioid products, treat or mitigate opioid use and related disorders, or mitigate other alleged effects of those who could have been injured by the opioid epidemic. Those investments are recommended, so these are things that we aren't currently doing. And then first one is Catherine's Health Center, Outreach Medicine. They currently provide work with our HOT team. Once a week they will go out and provide service, as well as at the Fusion Center on Tuesdays. This would allow them to expand that service. The community, Cherry Health Community Recovery Center, that is a renovation project that will allow them to have more clinical offices and group in a group service area to provide expanded services for recovery services. The Family Outreach Center is a community, it says community treatment team, but this really is focused on filling a gap in our community for early intervention of substance use disorder counseling services. And then we have Pine Rest Christian Mental Health Services, who would be focused on providing education to those who provide services in the community, to educate them on how to detect the use of those who may have problems with opioid use or substance use disorders. So they would basically be training professionals, those in our school systems, businesses, and other areas in our community. And then we have the Grand Rapids RED Project, Clean Works Harm Reduction Program, and this would support supplies for harm reduction services. Outcome 7, $270,000 is recommended there. These are a variety, are services that provide job training and readiness services. You can see that we tried to expand the number of programs that we could support this year with some of the other resources that were available. It allowed us to do that. And we have a sort of a varying population of targeted populations that are being served through these various organizations. And then finally, outcome 8, we did not make any recommendations, nor did we, we did not make, solicit any projects in this area because we thought there was a higher priority for, particularly for the general CDBG funds to be focused on the home repairs and other things more pertinent at this time. So the big question is, if our numbers come back different than how we have estimated it, there is a contingency plan in place so that we don't have to come back with recommendations. So if CDBG increases, the first what the committee recommends is that it's distributed among outcome 5 and outcome 6 in terms of our neighborhood partners. And then if the award increased that's for the public services, I'm sorry. And for the general fund, CDBG general funding would go to home repair services to increase the minor home repair resources available. If it decreases, the recommendation would be to remove funding first from newly funded projects in outcome 7, and then that's for the public service side of things, and then for the general CDBG to remove any that difference from home repair services, the minor home repair program. If home increases or decreases, that would be applied to community builders, tenant-based rental assistance, so in either direction. And for ESG, in either direction, we would look at the Salvation Army Eviction Prevention Program. So that gets us to more of the where we are in the process. So today is just putting this information out to making sure that everyone is aware that these recommendations are out and available. They were made public on March 18th with your agenda packet. There is a 30-day comment period. We invite citizens to provide input on these recommendations, either through written communication submitted to the Community Development Department at communitydev@grcity.us, and we'll take those written comments through April 18th, or they can participate in the public hearing that's already been scheduled and will be held in front of this body on April 9th. And the recommendations, the plans, everything is available on the Community Development website at grcd.info. And if anyone has any questions, they're welcome to call the Community Development Department at 456-3677. And then finally, you are scheduled for this body to actually approve the final awards on May 7th.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Bohatch. So I'm going to thank the subcommittee, who are over here on my right, who worked with you on these recommendations. I just have one question related to the opioid settlement dollars. You know, I appreciate us looking at our partners in the community who are doing good work to support them. However, I'm aware a number of other cities are using some of the funds to support internal services and to scale those up, like mental health co-response through their police department, homeless outreach efforts. So I'm curious, you know, if not this year, down the road, are we going to look at potentially using those funds to support some of the services that we've created internally, or to scale those up as needed?
Yes.
I know I've said a number of times I want to
Yes,
see
you
our
have.
mental health co-response team 24/7, and I know that, you know, we need to have revenue streams to do that.
So we did look at a variety of services being provided by the city. Some of the services that you're identifying have existing grants that have not timed out yet. In regard to the mobile crisis response, we know that there's issues with, even though we would want to scale up, there's issues in terms of staffing and getting the, I guess, the provider side of that, being able to work certain shifts. And I'm sure that the police department would love to give better and more details about that than I'm able to. So those are things that we're looking at. Not all of the resources, there's still a small amount that we currently have that are being held in reserve, just for that to continue to look at that. And then right now, we know that we will only get $260,000 annually coming to us from 2 settlements at this point. That can change as well, though, because as the settlements because there's still more settlements out there that have not been settled. And so once that's done, we'll continue to know, and that will be updated. So we can rely on about $260,000 for our FY25, and that's not included in this process at all.
Okay,
as well
that's
as
helpful.
a remaining, I think, around 200 and some thousand that we have not allocated.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could. So those we heard the feedback when we did the mid-year update, and those additional considerations are being evaluated now as we prepare this year's budget. So we've been working with the CFO and Ms. Bohach on that.
Okay, great, thanks. Glad to hear that. All right, Commissioners, any other questions or comments? All right, I'll look forward to hearing feedback from the community and then having this come back before us in May. Thank you. All right, next I'll ask Commissioner Knight to come back and join us. Next, we'll go to a resolution authorizing certain special events subject to Chapter 53 of the City Code. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support. All right, moved and supported. We have Ms. Pittman here to tell us about this item. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. It is a privilege to be here to share about all of the different special events that will be coming up in 2024. We've got everything from 5K runs to cultural festivals to weekly series and art and activations in our parks. This resolution also is requesting for opportunities for fireworks to be displayed, as well as the landing of a Lakota helicopter.
Great. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Beerwick. All right, next that will take us to a resolution providing for the publication of and setting a date to consider an amendment to Section 1.246, Life Allowance of Article 2, Chapter 7 of Title 1 of the Code of the City of Grand Rapids. And Commissioners, this is related to our police and fire retirement system. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, moved and supported, and we have Miss Molly, I'm here too. Molly's here too. We have our new HR director with us today to tell us about this.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This ordinance change will allow fire members hired on or after January 10th of 2012 to purchase a hire multiplier retroactively back to their 6-month employment anniversary. Currently, the ordinance language only allows retroactive selections for fire members hired between January 10th, 2012 and August 13th, 2019. This was a misunderstanding in the bargaining process and was contemplated and included in the actuarial study of 2019.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? I see we have some of our firefighters with us today. Commissioner Robbins, you serve on our pension board. Any questions or comments related to this item?
I don't think so. I think just to clarify, it's a kind of a rectification of something that was a misunderstanding in the past, so not a major change necessarily, just moving things to where they should be.
Yep, clean up.
Yep, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution providing for the publication of and setting a date to consider an amendment to Article 8 of Chapter 181 of the Code of the City of Grand Rapids, and this is entitled Bicycles. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. We have Ms. Casper here today to tell us about this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have a little brief presentation with some highlights for you about our request to consider the amendment around bicycles. But since the shared micromobility program was first piloted in 2019, a primary focus has always been to ensure the safety of users and those around them. As we continually strive to make Grand Rapids a safe place for bicyclists, micromobility users, and pedestrians, it has been noted that some aspects of the city's ordinance related to bicycles needed to be updated to reflect increased ridership and changing trends in personal mobility. Let me see if I can do this. So Article 8 around bicycles was last updated in 2015. As I mentioned, shared micromobility has since been introduced and ridership is increasing. So we first piloted the micromobility program in 2019 based off of public interest from the Bicycle Action Plan. It is proven to be an affordable and sustainable method of transportation. We have seen our ridership double from fiscal year '22 to fiscal year '23, and we are on track for more than 400,000 trips in fiscal year '24. But also, private ownership of e-bikes and other micromobility devices is also growing. So electric scooters, one-wheels, hoverboards, etc. And they're available in a variety of prices from big box and local retailers. And we have reviewed the bicycle and micromobility ordinance language from several other cities in the Midwest. So the current ordinance language is exclusive to bikes and e-bikes only. The ordinance language currently does prohibit sidewalk riding in the downtown improvement district. It also indicates that bicycle and e-bike riders must yield the right-of-way to pedestrians, and that bicycle and e-bike users must obey all traffic signals. So what we're proposing for the ordinance updates is to expand the language and update the definitions to include all types of micromobility devices. Sidewalk riding would still be restricted in the downtown improvement district or other signed areas, especially within special event zones, with the added exception for users with disabilities. And so this would allow Mobile GR to help with implementing signage, as well as educate downtown riders, pedestrians, and drivers around the safety of using bikes as well as micromobility devices. The ordinance would then also limit the use to one rider per device unless equipped with additional seating such as a child seat, a trailer, or a tandem. And if using shared micromobility consistent with our pilot program, riders must abide by the vendor's terms of service, which means that users must be 18 or older, and encourage all users to wear helmets. So this is just the process that has been outlined that we've taken thus far. So the ordinance language was drafted by staff during the fall, October to December of '23. We did bring that draft update to the Mobile GR Commission, who did recommend it to be brought forward to you all. That was back in December of '23. So here we are today, requesting to recommend the language for adoption at our next commission meeting. And if that does get adopted, then we will be moving forward with our safety messaging through social media and new signage in the spring and summer of this year. With that, I will take any questions.
All right, thank you. I have a couple questions. So thank you for bringing this forward. I know I have heard from folks, and I have experienced it personally, where I'm walking down the sidewalk and almost get hit by a scooter. So I think this is overdue. I'm curious, a couple things. One, do we have good data on accidents and injuries related to scooters or e-bikes? That's one question. And then my second question is, if we move forward with these changes, are we going to be able to not just provide the education, but also have the ability to enforce? And maybe I'm looking at the chief around that. I've said multiple times around this table, it's always concerns me if we pass an ordinance, but yet we don't have the ability to enforce that. So those are my two questions.
So I'm going to go in reverse order. So there's actually two items on the agenda. First is the actual updating the ordinance language. The next one immediately on the agenda after is to update the civil infraction amount associated with the ordinance changes. So that will, in fact, give us the ability to enforce it. Now, we also are not going to necessarily be proactively going out and enforcing, but it does give the police department the ability to do so, especially in special event areas or in areas that we're specifically signing for that. And so if they're having a presence there, they can, do the warning first and then also be able to issue any infractions that might come after the warning if people are not obeying that. But as far as staffing abilities, yes, that'd be more directed for the police department. And then remind me of your first question, please.
Do we have good data on accidents and injuries related to the scooters or e-bikes?
Right now, we do collect that information from the fire department, but we're just notified that the state police will be adding to the UD-10 forms, which involve any personal injury, crashes, or property damage over $1,000. They will actually be adding a checkbox for scooters and other types of motorized devices that are not bikes, so that we can get more accurate and regular reporting instead of just relying on the reports from our fire department.
I know that other cities, based on accident data, they have made adjustments to how fast scooters can go when they are turned on or off. I know some cities have made them so that they turn off at midnight so that they can't be used when it's more likely that someone who's intoxicated will ride them. Have we looked at what our options are if and when we think that the accident or injury data is concerning enough that we have to make adjustments?
I can certainly defer specifics about that to our staff. I mean, we do currently have a restriction on our existing program, but that doesn't restrict personal devices. But I'll let Ariana speak to it more.
Great, thank you.
So we have actually done some research in terms of the incidents that we have reported from the fire department and those that are alcohol involved. And so we found a very similar, unfortunately, a similar rate of alcohol involved kind of micromobility crashes as compared to auto crashes. And within the app, we have actually been able to add kind of a reaction test starting at midnight. And so we do have a weekly coordination meeting with Lyme. That is something that's kind of unique to our city, that we are able to extend the kind of reaction test over the St. Patrick's Day weekend, being that's kind of a higher likelihood of intoxication. And so, I mean, we do have the ability to kind of tweak these things and can we look at speeds? There is a beginner mode that starts with kind of a slower speed until people kind of get enough rides under them that they can go faster. So there is the ability to tweak the program as we need it.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that. All right, Commissioners, other questions or comments?
The police department's response to your enforcement question. I think the chief is prepared to respond.
All right. Welcome, Chief. Good to see you
Mayor.
again.
Thank you. Good to see you. The police department fully supports the update to this ordinance, and with obviously the commission's support in our recruiting and retention efforts, we have been able to staff up the central district downtown, and we are, in fact, are creating a dedicated central team, including a dedicated central supervisor. I hope that some of you at least have seen some improvements already for the past 6 months or so, and we look to continue that progress as we move towards the summer. I think this summer, staffing-wise, downtown is going to look a lot better than last summer did, and included in that is the ability to, mostly this will be education for us to get out and inform the riders that the rules of downtown micro-mobility, but we do have the capacity for enforcement as well. So this will be a positive tool for us.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Chief. Appreciate that. Commissioner?
Can we put the slide back up, that last slide that had the information? Helpful. Okay, thank you. As you're doing that, I'll just say this past summer I was able to go on a walk around downtown with the Downtown Neighbor Network, and it was about, I'd say, you did too? Oh, I thought you were saying, Is this one you want? Yes, that's the one I want. I'm sorry. Catching all the wrong cues, Commissioner. But I know others of you did as well. And it was a steamy summer night, and there was a lot of activity going on, which, again, we want activity. We want people to be out. We want people to be enjoying our businesses, enjoying events that are happening. But this is probably one of the larger concerns that has certainly happened to myself walking around downtown and experiencing this. That was my same question around the crash pieces, because I think that has been, whether it's these sorts of pieces or even just seeing some of the pedestrian items that we've come across. I know the police department has responded to. My question was, how can we broaden some of the safety message? Because I do think we have an opportunity, today at Fiscal, we did the pieces around communication. We're going to get on TikTok, we're going to be hip, and people are going to know what's going on. And while I think that those that utilize the micromobility certainly have a responsibility, I also think how can we have some shared communications for all of us? Something that I've noticed and others have communicated is there's a lot of times people who are looking at their phone as they're going through a crosswalk. I feel like at Elder Elementary, I was told, make eye contact if you're crossing the street so then the car can see you. And so I just, I'd hate to miss out on if we're doing some sort of safety message, how can we have this larger conversation about what do we all have as our responsibility when we're, just actively anywhere. And so I've seen that happen a lot, and I'm like, I'm trying to look at the person. And so I just think, again, I just wanted to share some of those opportunities. But I would be supportive of this language. I'm glad we asked that question about enforcement. And I think so much of this is on like that social behavior, like how do we create a positive social behavior that we can all be a part of. Thanks.
And I think
Mayor,
I'm sorry.
go right ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's exactly it, that in conjunction with our item from this morning, it gives us a broader scope of kind of marketing and safety messaging, but we have been consistently putting safety messaging on our existing social media sites, but this would be, the earlier thing today is actually paying to push it out to a broader audience, as well as partnering with programs or like the Griffins or Laugh Fest and running our safety messaging before the Laugh Fest shows and before or during the Griffins intermissions. So we have explored ways to get it out to broader audiences besides just those that are currently on our social media page. So.
Thanks. City Manager, and then Commissioner Perdue, and then Commissioner Knight.
Well, I was just going to acknowledge Commissioner Sassi's point on outreach and education, and don't see our communications director, but I think it would be good at a future public safety committee to specifically talk about public safety messaging across the various departments and how we have both individual but also could have collective efforts to reinforce safety in our community.
Thank you. Commissioner Perdue.
Okay, good morning. Thank you. Really happy to see the responsiveness and the thoughtfulness around making sure that there's clarity and expectations, paths to enforcement to keep folks safe at downtown and different events. I'm curious, though, about this item around encouraging all users to wear helmets. If folks are using micromobility devices on a planned route from home to work, right, it makes sense that it's more realistic that they might grab a helmet and wear it to work. But if folks are visiting our city or going to an event and want to hop on a Lime and visit other parts of downtown, for example, it's not very likely that they will be carrying around a helmet with them. This winter, we piloted having sleds available for folks who wanted to go. I'm curious, really what I'm getting at is there any thought around allowing folks to provide to borrow helmets if they're visiting, they want to ride, but they want to take that extra safety precaution?
So when we first implemented the pilot, that was something that we were exploring of how we could make helmets accessible.
Yeah.
You have to have a wide kind of size arrangement or varying scale for folks, as well as the sanitation factor around helmets. And so when you are using a Lime bike or scooter, part of the terms and conditions is saying that you agree to wear a helmet. And so we still want to definitely explore that piece of how we can make helmets available for users of the Lime bikes and scooters specifically. But those are just some of the challenges that we've faced, because we definitely want people to be wearing a helmet properly and make sure it's fitted properly, which means we'd have to have kid sizes all the way through adults in various sizes and make sure that's at every station, which is tricky. But we are going to definitely continue to challenge ourselves with that.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Commissioner Knight.
Thank you, Commissioner Perdue. That was actually one of the questions that was on my list. Another part of that
limiting, one of the sections on there was limiting the use to one rider per device. Well, I'm going to step back a little bit and go back to sidewalk riding restricted in the downtown improvement area. And are we thinking about that not just being downtown, but it all the way across the city, right? Because I watch people on the sidewalks with the scooters that are not just downtown, but in all parts of the city riding down the sidewalk. And if somebody's out there walking their dog, it's a trade-off on who's actually getting the right-of-way. At least I've noticed that a couple of times. And so how do we look at that moving forward in the future? Because if we're looking at all quadrants of our city and not just specifically downtown, how are we protecting all of our neighbors in that instance? And then moving on to the next piece with limiting one use of one rider per device. Now, I know you talked earlier about the enforcement pieces, right? And so when I'm in the urban core of the city, there's a lot of times I see two people on a bike, right? We can't necessarily all afford one, and somebody may be giving somebody a ride down the street. And so making sure that there's not unintended consequences for somebody just riding a bike and having fun, as opposed to, oh, this is the new rule or ordinance. Now we have to enforce that type of thing. So making sure that we're not putting unnecessary or undue constraints on parts of our community that may be more disenfranchised than others. And then I know that there was conversation about the protected bike lane, so I guess that for me goes hand in hand with the sidewalk restrictions and where people can ride and still be safe. That's pretty much it.
And so I put this slide up about the ordinance update. So the current ordinance language is restricting to just the downtown improvement district, whereas the recommended changes would expand it from the downtown improvement district, signed areas, and special events. So if there are areas outside of the downtown that we are seeing problems, then that would allow us to put up appropriate signage about that, so that would be an enforcement mechanism for the police department. But I would defer to the police department on how they would handle a double rider situation.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. In practicality, I can't envision a scenario where a police officer would make a stop for that, whether or not it was in an ordinance, aside from for safety purposes, to if they saw a very unsafe situation. But I would be shocked if over the next decade we ever issued a citation for such a thing.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Chief. All right, any final questions or comments?
Just one.
Commissioner?
As it relates to the ability to sign an additional location, would that be something you would solicit from a corridor improvement authority, a neighborhood business district, a neighborhood association? Like, what would the process be like to figure out how to determine what, how signs could go up and change that, definition of where they could and couldn't be riding there on sidewalk?
I think that once, or if the ordinance does get adopted, then that will start us to create a process and communicate that out so that it's clearly understood for you all as well as the corridor improvement authorities about requesting those.
Great, thank you. City Manager?
Yeah, and I just want to, I think for highly trafficked commercial corridors, sidewalk restrictions would make sense, but we'll want to avoid the unintended consequences, particularly around bicycles in the neighborhoods where you have children who are learning how to ride bikes, and where it would be reasonable to have safe access to the sidewalk and not streets. And so I think for highly commercial corridors, particularly on scooters, that would be restricted, but I think we need to be intentional about, be careful about the unintended impact in other more residential areas.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, and as indicated, next item is kind of a companion item. It's a resolution providing for the publication of and setting a date to consider an amendment to Section 9.857.181 of Chapter 170 of the Code of the City of Grand Rapids entitled Municipal Civil Infractions. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Anything to add to this item?
No.
All right. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, next that will take us to our discussion and potential resolution to make an appointment to fill the current Third Ward City Commission seat, which is vacant and has been vacant since Commissioner Moody stepped down. We've gone through a pretty thorough deliberative process. I want to again thank our Committee on Appointments for leading the charge and working through the first round of interviews that brought us to 3 final candidates that we, as a full body, had the opportunity to meet those candidates and ask them questions and go through an interview. I am grateful for everyone who put their names in and indicated that they have a desire to serve our great city as a Third Ward City Commissioner. And I'm glad that we had 3 good candidates to choose from as we came to the close of our interview process. So I'm going to open this up for discussion. I think I'll start down here with Commissioner Perdue, who not only chaired our Committee on Appointments, but also is a Third Ward Commissioner herself and has been carrying the weight herself over the last few months since Commissioner Moody stepped down. So Commissioner Perdue, do you want to start us off on this discussion this morning?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think you teed it up nicely. I echo the sentiments of being thankful and grateful for the process, for the involvement of so many folks, whether those who stepped up to say, I want to serve, those who sent in letters of support, those who engaged, and those who were just overall supportive of the process. As you mentioned, we had 3 great finalists and many others, kind of that full list of candidates or applicants who wanted to step up to serve, and it was such an honor to get to know them in this space. I'm ready to make a motion today. I'm ready to make a motion today, and then we'll be happy in our discussion to share more about my motion. When I thought about, and I shared this, I think at our last meeting when we talked about this and potentially at appointments, when I think about who I want to serve with for the next 10 months, someone who is familiar with city work, someone who understands the link to public policy issues in the realm of policy, someone who can be really focused and present over the next 10 months. We have a lot coming up, and it's going to be a busy year, particularly for this election year as well. And so with that being said, I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Bingoe to fill this vacancy.
All right, a motion's made. Is there a second? Support. All right, motion has been made with support. So the motion before us is to appoint Mr. Bingoe to fill this seat, and I will open it up for discussion.
I'll
start with Commissioner Perdue.
I'll also add what I really appreciate about Mr. Goey is his longstanding service to this community, his strong background in economic development and as a small business owner, his connection to diverse sets of social service and public service organizations. So I think he brings a well-rounded wealth of experience, as well as curiosity for how do we move things forward at this table, at this body, at this time. He is also the only finalist who has said that he is not planning to run this year, and it is very time intensive to not just run, and particularly running a season like this. This is a very interesting and unique year, but to also, there's a great learning curve even when you are already involved in city business. And so I'm encouraged by the fact that he will be able to bring focus, dedication, and commitment to this role while kind of bringing that very diverse background and network to serving this role. So that's a little bit more about my thinking and why I want to serve with him for the next 10 months.
Thank you. Commissioner Sassi?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner. I don't think this was on your bingo card to be the sole commissioner in your second year, and thank you for the time and energy that you've put into this because, yes, I think a lot of things are unplanned. And so when we all sat around and sort of had different discussions about what would be the best, we realized that the voters will have an option come the fall. And it was really up to us to determine, quite honestly, in a very short term, and you all are probably like that first year you were on commission went by. I can't believe I'm in my 5th year. And so you make decisions, to me, at least for my decision-making, what do I think is sort of the core of what's in front of us? And I think that with Mr. Goey, what stood out to me, and knowing, quite honestly, Mayor, that you and Commissioner O'Connor will be off the commission next year, but to have some of that experience working at the state level, because I think that's been something that's been really imperative, that you certainly have advocated and pushed, and understanding how do we build really strong relationships, both with state departments, but also with our legislators, and having served in a large and setting up a new agency at the state level, I think will allow for that understanding and experience, even without that decision to move forward and to seek the elected office. I think secondly, we have a number of things in front of us as we look forward to the budget, but also, just right now, we're dealing with this issue around, this break. But we also know it's impacting residents and the household accounts. But we know it's impacting our business owners as well. It's almost a little bit of a deja vu of what it looked like when we went through COVID in those first couple of weeks. And I think having some significant experience with our business community will also serve us well, given that economic development and ensuring that we have positive economic development, quality economic development is something that is really important to me as I think about what I hope to talk about and accomplish in this next year. And what I will say, so those are my reasons why. I also think I would echo what Commissioner Perdue said around sort of the timeline and the understanding. Interviews are always hard, because if you get to the top 2, you get to the top 3, anyone could certainly be selected. That's my opinion from my human resources background. And it's up to, at least in my head, it's up to me to figure out what are those pieces that nudge someone over the top. I would like to say that we received many messages about all 3 candidates, quite honestly, about their work, about why they think they would be a good person, about their character. And so I hope that everyone who's watching knows that we, probably not going to be able to respond to every one of those, but we did receive them. And, that was used throughout the process as well. And so I am excited to be at this point. Today is filled with a lot of different things that we need to talk about. And somebody said, why don't we do this? It was about another issue. We should do this before we do that. And at the city, we need to be able to do a number of things with sometimes very short timelines. And I'm proud to work with some amazing representatives that have been elected to government, but also city staffers who can do multiple things at once. And I think that Mr. Goey will exemplify that and be able to serve us well as we go through the rest of 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, anyone else would like to be heard? Commissioner?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to echo my same sentiment, too, and appreciation for my colleagues who also served on the committee appointments. And we're just dedicated to this process and doing it thoroughly. I think, as my colleagues have mentioned, too, we were very fortunate to be presented with a very qualified slate of candidates, and especially the top 3 are all very driven and caring individuals who hope for nothing but to see the city move forward in a positive manner. So I remember when I was kind of assessing the candidates, and I think of what Commissioner Moody had brought to this body and just his life experience and depth and wisdom, and that was really something that I felt I wanted to prioritize in when I was picking my candidates. And so while I think all 3 candidates had a very strong showing at our last round of interviews, I think for me the 2 that rose to the top were Mr. Goey and Mr. Krajewski. And so I think, as my colleague has also mentioned too, while it is March, November will come very, very fast. And it is a busy year, and I think it's also in the best interest of our community and making sure as a body we're serving and we're responding as much as possible. And so having somebody who's had some overlap with a lot of city services over the years and has worked on policy both at the local and state level is very valuable too. So I am prepared this morning to move forward with supporting Mr. Goey as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll add my thoughts and see if anyone else has any other comments before I call the question. I too am supportive of moving forward with Mr. Bingoy for a whole host of reasons. One, I've known him for, I think, almost 20 years. And during that time, I've been able to see his real heart for service, but also his broad experience, both in the private sector and the public sector. He has a proven track record in our community He's well-respected, he is trusted, and I do think that his voice will be a valuable addition to this body over the next year. And I also want to respect that the residents of the Third Ward will have an opportunity to cast their own vote and make their decision about who they wish to represent them for the next 4 years. And they'll be able to do that. If there's a primary, they'll be able to have their voice heard in August and then again in November. So that is where I stand. I plan to cast my vote for Mr. Bingoy as well. I'll see if anyone else has any comments, and then I'll call the question. Any additional comments? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, with that, that recommendation and decision will be on our agenda tonight as a part of a resolution on the consent agenda, since it was a unanimous vote here this morning. And then after it is affirmed tonight, and after we get through our city business, then at the end of that meeting, I will ask our city clerk to step up and swear in our new city commissioner, our new colleague, so that they can get started here at the city tomorrow, hopefully, if they are available. There's a lot to do, a lot to learn as we move into April, into our budget season, and to a whole host of critical issues that will be coming before us over the next 3 months. So with that, Commissioners, we will be finishing up our action items this morning, and we will move to our briefing. So we do have a briefing this morning by Mr. John O'Cluster, and this is a presentation of the Economic Development Department's annual report, and is the annual report for 2023. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Clusser. Commissioners, feel free, if you need to get some more coffee or take a break, feel free to do that, and we'll get started as our city clerk pulls up the PowerPoint. Mr. Bingoy, congratulations. Look forward to having you join us around this table, and I'm sure I'll see you tonight. If not for the full meeting, please be there towards the end. All right, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning,
To cap off a busy morning for you here. Happy to be here presenting our annual report for the Economic Development Department team. All of the current members of the team are seated in the audience here. We have Jordan, Chad, Jess, and Christian. We are missing Miss Vera Nara Kamara, who's on maternity leave, but this is our team. So we bring you this report each year summarizing the outcomes of the work that we did in the calendar year 2023. We're working, obviously, to contribute to the city's strategic plan and the priority of economic prosperity and affordability, creating pathways to financial growth and security for residents, employees, and businesses in Grand Rapids. We also wrap up the report every year with a little bit of accountability. We don't just bring you headlines, but we also follow up on projects that are approved and make sure that the city is getting what it was promised, and that our partners in the private development world are making good on their commitments. So we work in 3 core focus areas. These were defined through our Equitable Economic Development and Mobility Strategic Plan. We tried to be a little bit more explicit this year in categorizing our work and representing how it's facilitated. As you know, we're a small department, but we are growing as well. And we do also, as you know, a lot of our work through various boards and authorities. So currently we have 10 boards that we administer, which, if you're doing the math, is 2 per staff person. And so that means we rely on a lot of volunteers, including all of you who serve on our board. So we're grateful for all the volunteers, including you, Mayor and Commissioners, and hope that we're doing a good job representing the work. So I'm going to start with real estate development. Our real estate development efforts are focused on redeveloping vacant, contaminated, functionally obsolete property that's not contributing any value to the community or the city as an organization. So in 2023, City Commission approved 10 projects. These will be projects that came to you under familiar programs like the Brownfield Redevelopment Program, Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, Neighborhood Enterprise Zone, etc. These projects, when completed, will deliver nearly 900 new housing units, 129 of those subject to agreements that restrict rents to 80% area median income or below. 309 new and 12 retained jobs as part of these projects, with an overall average wage above $24 an hour. And when completed, we estimate more than $1 million of new annual city property taxes and income taxes combined. As you know, we also continue to implement, invest, and enhance our inclusion plan. And in 2023, got nearly $30 million of commitments to minority, women-owned, and micro-local subcontractors connected to these real estate development projects. So overall, projects across the city, nearly $280 million of private investment committed. We did see large projects this year. 10 is frankly a relatively low number, but we did see larger and more complex projects, notably Factory Yards project, first transformational brownfield project, $147 million private investment, and then River North on North Monroe, another $83 million associated with that project. We continue to support the build-out of the Walker View Business Park, that 250 acres in Walker that's subject to an interlocal agreement. So we saw another company locate out there this year. And as always, we're focused on tracking not just by wards, but neighborhoods of focus as well, and more than 60% of the investment taking place in our neighborhoods of focus. As always, we're working to identify additional resources beyond those programs that we administer on a daily basis. Obtaining $6 million from the Revitalization and Placemaking 2.0 project program from the state, and our local Brownfield Revolving Fund continues to be active with $600,000 of grants and loans and $130,000 of environmental site assessment grants for first-time developers and businesses located in the neighborhoods of focus. Just a quick project highlight. You've seen this before many times. This was calling this out because it was the first transformational brownfield project in the city. You know these numbers well. Very large-scale project, 467 new residential units planned there, and significant opportunities for retail and commercial operations. This was a project that our team put a lot of work into over many, many months. Really collaborative effort with the development team, and really proud of the effort to achieve a mixed income project here, with the support of the Neighborhood Association as well. So we expect ongoing collaboration here as this project gets under construction and more opportunities become available with the commercial space. But of course, we do more than just projects. So just a couple other quick highlights of the work that we did this year. Significant work, legislative and policy, collaborating with Ms. Karen Farrick, but also with legislators and their staff and other stakeholders across the state to implement the housing tax increment financing portion of the Brownfield program, and making sure that works for Grand Rapids, and look forward to having a couple projects on the Brownfield agenda later this month. We continue to provide ongoing support in various ways for the riverfront redevelopment efforts, evaluating transformational brownfield plan applications, but also property disposition and due diligence as well. Mentioned the outcomes of our inclusion plan, so we continue to identify opportunities to work in partnership with private investors to diversify the construction industry. Two more approvals this morning on community development related to our work managing land bank properties. So we've got 5 properties sold in 2023. One of those is complete for our under construction, 80% are for affordable home ownership. 5, and after tonight, 7 properties under option for redevelopment. We are working to identify and build resources for emerging and first-time developers, collaborating with the planning department on permit-ready plans, and we support various other city departments in their real estate needs, closing on 6 property acquisitions in 2023 and working on another currently. So a lot of work beyond just bringing projects to you, which is a lot of work in and of itself, but happy to contribute to the broader strategies of the city here. Moving on to business development, our business development efforts and the outcomes I'll talk about here are largely focused on investing to grow and diversify the technology industry in Grand Rapids. That's largely facilitated through the Smart Zone Local Development Finance Authority. So these outcomes are the outcomes reported by our partners, Spartan Innovations and Start Garden, both of whom operate incubators and run accelerator programs for high technology companies in downtown Grand Rapids. So 132 companies served in 2023. The goal is 30% of those being owned by underrepresented populations, and that was nearly doubled, 60%. 75 of those companies are owned by underrepresented populations. 336 quality jobs, which is defined in our contract as jobs paying $20 an hour or more. 43 companies expanded and 67 new companies in collaboration between those partners as well. This is where we're investing. So the Smart Zone invests primarily in that inspiration, mentoring, and access to resources category. That is the incubators and operators, incubators and accelerators, where 33 companies are currently tenants. But again, a broader audience being served, 132 companies overall. And really happy with the partnership there with those two partners, and look forward to continuing that into the future and doubling down on the effective programming that's offered in downtown Grand Rapids. A couple other quick highlights from our business development efforts. Beyond those numbers, we do have reported more than $68 million of funding. That'll be like venture capital, equity investments, and investments in services like the Business Accelerator Fund, and again, making sure that that's available to underrepresented companies, again, more than half of that being raised by underrepresented companies. And then again, knowing that it's not just technology companies, we do invest and provide resources to operating companies as well, and saw 3 projects creating 49 new jobs, representing $11 million of investment outside of the Smart Zone in connection with our real estate development efforts. Last category here, we work in neighborhood business corridors to support efforts that create thriving neighborhood business districts across the city. Work largely facilitated through 6 corridor improvement authorities and 1 business improvement district. So overall, 76 different projects funded this year, broken down by events and sponsorships. So creating vibrancy and activity in the neighborhood business corridors, investing in streetscapes and public art installations, and then facade improvements as well. The investments broken down about $850,000, with the majority of that for streetscape enhancements and public art. And then facade grants that hopefully you're noticing those throughout the community, as well as events and sponsorships in your wards. So just visual representation again. I hope you're seeing this work throughout the community with public art and facades being improved, both as you're driving around, but also as you're walking around and shopping at our local businesses. I did mention that we do hold ourselves accountable, so I just gave you all the headlines from 2023, and those are things that we fully expect to happen, but we do go back and make sure of that as well. And again, happy to continue to be able to report that our partners are delivering on what they committed to. So we survey projects until they're complete, and we go back. This summary includes outcomes from projects you approved starting in 2018 through 2022. So there were 56 projects, and 39 of those are complete. 17 of them are still under development, and that represents $217 million under construction. So for completed projects, what was committed to in the application in terms of private investment was about $488 million. These the completed projects resulted in $553 million of investment. The developers are probably not happy about that, but that they are investing more in Grand Rapids than was committed to. Job creation, similar story there, where we see about 200 more jobs created than were expected in the application. And then, as you know, we are now reporting on actual signed secured contracts for minority, women-owned, and micro-local contractors, and are happy to report $22 million of contracts signed just since 2021 when we began that program. And then we do report 665 actual housing units being delivered to the market by these 39 projects that are completed, and approaching half of those for households earning 80% area median income or below. So as we've done for the last couple of years, we also have a video to show you. It's just 3 minutes highlighting some of the work from last year. And then I'll wrap up after that and be happy to take any questions. Hopefully this works. Can you help me out, Joel? Travis said it worked, so. Travis tested it.
Is there a link in it?
Should just click on.
Oh, hi.
There we go.
I am a native of Grand Rapids. I've been here all of my life. I am a product of the Grand Rapids public school system, and this is the place that I have chosen not only to work, but to live, and of course to play, because there is great things. I am a native of Grand Rapids. I've been here all of my life. I am a product of the Grand Rapids public school system, and this is the place that I have chosen not only to work, but to live, and of course to play, because there's great things that come.
I love the growth opportunities here. I love the way that everyone's looking toward the future and seeing the opportunities and is encouraging growth.
And really, it's a very easy place to do business. The city's been incredibly supportive. The economic development team has been guiding us through the process, and we've done work in a lot of different communities across Michigan and out of state, and Grand Rapids has just been phenomenal to work with.
In the City of Grand Rapids Economic Development Office, we work in 3 key areas: real estate development, business development, with a focus on high technology, and building thriving neighborhood business corridors. 2023 was a year where we saw a lot of positive momentum in all 3 of those areas. Our 6 corridor improvement authorities, which cover most commercial corridors in the city, had a busy year, supporting dozens of facade improvement projects, streetscape enhancements, public art installations, all contributing to the vibrancy of the corridors that they represent.
There's really 2 main sections of the building. One we're standing in is a 5-story building. That will be residential units on floors 2 through 5, and the ground floor will be a hyper-local food hall, bar, event space. We hope that it's a place for people to create, for people to relax, for people to live and just enjoy what Grand Rapids has to offer.
So the current is going to be a total of 72 housing units, 49 studio units, 20 one-bedrooms, and 3 two-bedrooms. The building is really a housing first philosophy. We want to get as many people living in this cool neighborhood as we can.
We're looking for our project to be an inspiration and a beacon of hope here in the community, where we can teach students the power of their voice. The most exciting part of the project is seeing it come to fruition. We've been working on Southtown Loft since 2018. So with the investment that the City of Grand Rapids is making into the project through the RAP 2.0 and their $1.72 million grant, it is allowing us to bring the project to completion.
Grand Rapids is a growing community. We have a lot of momentum, and we have a lot to offer, whether you're a resident or a visitor, a business owner, downtown or in our neighborhoods in all 4 seasons of the year. We want Grand Rapids to be a place where there's opportunity for you. Because together, we are
GR.
There you go. That wraps it up. So I thank the team for helping pull that all together. Avis Films helped us with the film. It's a lot of work to summarize all that and try to get 12 months of a lot of activity into a report. So really appreciative of the team and for your time this morning.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Klooster, for the presentation, and thank you to the team at Economic Development for all the hard work that you guys do supporting efforts here in Grand Rapids. I had to step in here for the mayor for the wrap-up of this meeting. We can turn it over to my colleagues here if anyone has any questions for the Economic Development team before we adjourn the meeting. Commissioner Sassi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the presentation, and I was clapping silently for the video at the end, just so you know. If I could get you to laugh, I guess not. But what I will say...
You got to try harder than that.
I know. Gosh. We take our work here very seriously, but I don't take myself that seriously. But I'm watching this video, and I'm looking at this, and it is just a fraction, I think, of the work that has happened. And I know some of your staff members are in here. I see Mr. Turner. I've seen others. There's Christian. Jazz, I'm sorry. You guys are all standing right there in a row. And I like to joke that I often go and see them if I'm here on Friday afternoons because they're in the office and they have chocolate. But truly, all joking aside, there is so much work that is done to get all these things to happen. Lots of emails back and forth. I appreciate, the variety of feedback that we were provided through our economic development project team. I think the interest in Grand Rapids and our ability to move forward with those positions, and those got posted pretty quickly. So it's almost this piece of, this doesn't even do it justice because I know there's a lot that goes behind the scenes. Just previously, when we had our last item, was a lot of the interaction that needs to happen at the state level with these other authorities, these, our legislators, and that doesn't always work on the timetable. Something else might come up and it could push something out. And so I just, want to give my appreciation for all that work. I think for us, we've seen that support, that professional support from Vera and Chad, like I can say at our North Corridor Improvement Authority. I think when I first started, I would joke and say, I kind of didn't know what was going on before I was a commissioner going to the meetings. I think there was just so many questions that young authority had. And now to see some of the leadership, the consistency, the ability to be able to do more in that area is because of folks on the team here at Economic Development. And I was glad to see that message you put out yesterday, I think yesterday, the day before, to our business owners and corridor improvement authorities, again, recognizing what's happening with the water main break. I did have a question as it relates to some of the pieces, I think, around the MLBEs, and obviously we know we've been working to increase that number. But also just wondering if in the future, and this might be more for the Economic Development Project team, just what does that look like in terms of the time that they have from sort of receiving something to the contract being executed to payment? I know that is something that some of our small businesses have asked us in the past. And in my day job working with small businesses, we're working with somebody who I found out they have a large contract with the city. There's no impropriety about it. But just knowing how do they navigate and what is that average time for payment? I think that would be another good data point. I know you all are tracking those things and know those things, and it just might have not made this into the final report. But that's one of the questions that has been asked of me. And then I did also want to just say thank you again for some of these pieces around the housing TIF brownfield program. That too was a large undertaking. I think we had a lot of questions. There was uncertainty at the state level. Thank you to the number of individuals who serve on that body and your team to bring us all together. And I think this presentation is really fitting to have as we prepare for our public hearing today on the zoning changes, because many people have asked, what are the other things that the city is doing? And I think this is a really good example to talk to people about, that it's not just this one thing, not this one set of zoning changes that we think is going to be the miracle to fix everything. I've had to communicate that to people, but that this work that you all are doing is tying into it. But we might not see the fruits of that for some years to come. So I just appreciate, I don't know if that was on purpose, City Manager, if you positioned it that way, but I think that's really helpful to be able to talk to people tonight. And like you said, we'd love the number to be higher, but also there are specific dollars, and we're trying to braid things. So I just wanted to share my appreciation. This continues to be, economic development is a very strong interest area for me. I'm glad to now sit on the Smart Zone Authority and getting those reports and hearing those things of what else can we continue to do to push to support entrepreneurs, particularly in that tech space. So thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, with that, we will adjourn Committee of the Whole here at 11:29. Thank you, everyone.